of Vape It or Hate It. It's a pretty exciting episode for me because I'm going to take the time to show you guys the Russian 91%. And because I typically do more economical reviews, very soon a friend of mine is getting in the Rocket, which is a clone of the Russian 91 and K-Fun Lite from Fast Tech that is astronomically cheaper than the Russian. So I know a lot of you guys are probably saying, whoa, wait a minute, I know you like to do the cheaper stuff so that way everybody can get involved, but this Russian is just such a good atomizer that I have to review it, and much thanks goes out to the crew at eVapes because they're the ones that happened to have the Russian when I got it. So, wonderful, wonderful atomizer. Take a second and show you this big, beautiful box here. What you're going to get is your Russian. As you can tell, I've already built mine, and I happen to have lime is key in there. Been stuck on these flavors, guys. I know. Gonna have some more reviews going on for other flavors here real soon, but I've just been so enamored with the fancy JD and eVapes line that I can't put them down. But that is the fully assembled Russian 91%. You can see the airflow control and the air intake right there. On the bottom is your fill hole and the adjustable 510 connection. That thing screws in and out. There is another piece under this screw where the shaft is to make sure that that stays on the block. This is a brushed stainless tank, and yes, I know I am actually running the adapter so I can run a regular drip tip, because I personally think that the stock drip tip that comes with it is very, very restrictive. And let me actually show you, because it's going to come with a 10 ml bottle with a needle. I know a lot of you guys already have 10 mils, 5 mils, 30 mils, whatever, with needles, or you may also have a syringe similar to this to be able to fill off of that bottom hole. From what I understand, it is highly recommended that you use the bottom hole to fill it so that way you don't get flooding issues. And for those of you guys that are cloud chasers and absolutely have to run sub-ohm, the Russian, the K-Fun, the Rocket, and any other atomizer that is on this build style is not recommended for massive sub-ohm. I know it was told to me by Tucker that 0.7 ohms is like the threshold with this thing. And it's understandable because this has a very big insulator that's under the block. And I will actually show you, it may not show up very good, so that way you can understand how much of a build this atomizer is. When you get it, yes, some assembly required. And let's see if it actually shows up there, guys. Look at that. 18 pieces. That is a lot of pieces. And it's probably going to be very difficult to see on the camera there, but you can see the way that that's set up. The chimney goes on right here. There's a block that actually screws on with the 510 pin that goes in there, and you have to set your coil up so it sits across there. And you've got your wicks that come down into these feed slots that the chimney leaves open when you put it on. Alright? This is a very, very intricate build. It is not for a new vapor. I would highly recommend that you have some experience with rebuildables or Genesis, so that way you don't get in over your head. Now, if you are a tinkerer by nature, then this definitely could be a build for you. The flavor on this thing is absolutely phenomenal, but it is not, I cannot stress it enough, it is not a sub-ohm beast. The insulators, this thing comes with a lot of spare parts, but the one thing they leave out are spare insulators. So if you burn those, I know Vape Rev has the insulators for the K-Fun Lite 3.1, I believe. They're $8 a piece for just the insulator, alright guys? So if you burn those, you're going to have to order a whole new set, and believe me, I've been told by a couple of people, when you burn them, you're stuck with the burnt flavor until you change them. I also heard from someone else that accidentally fell asleep and left their mech firing with it, and it burnt it so bad that they had to freaking dig chunks of insulator out of the threading. So they are very sensitive. Now, as you can see right now, I'm not running a harsh juice, so I'm running the little poly tank. Looks pretty cool. That is, like I said, the JD Lima's key in there. Very, very good flavor off of this thing. I'm just blown away with how good this thing's set up. I've built it at a 0.8 ohm setup when I first picked it up at E-Vapes. And I gotta thank Dewey for helping me set it up, and it was actually pretty hilarious because you got the both of us sitting there watching a YouTube video, and while he's setting it up, so that way he makes sure he gets it exactly right. But he actually did the setup there at E-Vapes, so any of you guys that are local, service, man, service, because Dewey actually put this thing together, handed it to me, I coiled it, and was vaping before I walked out the door. So you can't go wrong there, alright? And when I asked for a lower gauge of wire, then Dewey brought me wire, no problem. So just service, guys, service. This thing actually does come with a lot of wick and wire, as you can see. You got a good couple feet of 32 gauge Kanthal that it comes with, and it also comes with a good couple of feet of silica, which is recommended for this setup. And I know a lot of guys are running the cotton wicks and nano coils or the micro coil setups with this. So those are options to run with it. Now, as I was saying, with the stock air or the stock drip tip that comes with this, look at the difference in the size of the hole. So for those of you guys that like that open hit, and especially if you're running a thicker high VG juice and you want more airflow, aside from being able to control it with the AFC, that right there is your next step, because this just screws out so that way you can actually put on the stock tip. And I really wish this stock tip had a bigger airflow on it, because it looks really nice. I mean, that is an incredible look, but I do not like how restrictive it is, because it is definitely very restrictive. Alright, go ahead and unscrew this. Now, one of the other really nice bonuses about this tank is the fact that it does come with a stainless insert to replace that poly if you plan on running a highly acidic juice, so that way it won't destroy that polycarb. Alright, so you get what you pay for, guys. Accessories, and I mean, look at this. You got 4 O-rings of one size, you've got a spare O-ring on the other side, a spare O-ring for where the chimney goes in, You've got spare small insulator, or the small O-rings, super small ones. There's 3 of those, and you get 2 spare screws of every type of screw this thing uses. So you're getting 2 spare air control screws. You're getting 2 spare juice fill hole screws, and you're also getting 2 spare post screws for where you screw your wire on. Alright? You can't beat that. Not many devices come with that many extras. So just another one of those nice bonuses. So you're getting a lot of wick, you're getting a lot of wire, you're getting the stainless insert, you're getting the drip tip adapter, and all those goodies all in one box. And I gotta tell you, right now the build that I've got on it is a 1.5 ohm with the silica, and like I said, this is not a cloud chaser setup. This is all about the flavor. I mean, the vapor production is nice. Do not get me wrong. And from what I understand, if you were to actually run this thing with the microcoil or a nanocoil, you will get even better vapor production. I unfortunately haven't had a chance to get a hold of cotton. I'm going to have to give a shout to Brian to see about getting some of the cotton he has on hand. I know I got some bigger wire coming in. I might have to do a small trade with him for it. Or either that, or I'll have to give him some number 47, get some more, get some of that cotton from him, because he's in love with that flavor. But just a very good tank. I can't say enough good about this. And apparently this tank suits me very well, because for as much trouble as I've been having with Genesis tanks lately, I got this thing set up and running right off the bat. The only problem I had with it on initial setup was some flooding, and actually I understand why after watching Phil Basardo, because he's the one that I learned on making sure that you fill this thing through the bottom, or if you are going to do the top fill, you need to cover the airflow vent, and before you let go of it, you'll screw your top on part way and flip it over, let go of it, and finish screwing that top on, so that way you don't have juice sitting in there and flooding in. Because this is designed to be filled the other way, so that way the wicks saturate and it doesn't flood. So, very good design. Just the fact that this thing is a clone of the K-Fun and has improved on the K-Fun, so much so that K-Fun came out with the light and added on the air control to keep up with this one, is remarkable. So, you want a good tank at a, well, I'll tell you right now, from what I understand, the price on this thing is pretty good. But the still fact of the matter being, if you want a very well built with lots of extras, this is definitely a way to go. It blows cartomizers out of the water. It blows the carto tanks. VV Novas cannot touch the flavor that this thing's given. I'm personally not a big fan of VV Novas in any way, shape, or form. I know you guys saw that I did the review on the PCB tank last week, or last video. I've been a pretty big fan of bottom coils because I own several Kanger 1s and a couple of Kanger 2s, the Pro Tank 2s, and just for ease and performance, they're great tanks, and I know a lot of guys are doing some killer rebuilds on them things and getting some massive performance out of an everyday, easy to carry setup. But if you want something that's a step above that without muting the flavor, the Russian 91, I mean, you cannot go wrong. And from what I understand, the K-Fun Lite with the air control on it is phenomenal. And as soon as I get a chance to get hands-on with that rocket, that's a clone off of this thing as well, off of Fast Tech, when it comes in with my friend, I will get this on there so that way you guys can see the difference. And from what I understand, it's less than $15. It's not going to come with all the extras. And I mean, just another one of the bonuses that comes with this thing, you get this handy dandy keychain screwdriver setup. It's got a Phillips, it's got a slotted, and then on the end there it even has an Allen head for being able to do rebuilds on the go or adjustments on the go as well. So I mean, they really didn't leave much of anything out. So definitely an impressive setup, and you can't go wrong with this thing. I absolutely adore it. I think I may be getting rid of a lot of cardo tanks all of a sudden, just for the simple fact of how well this thing performs. I'm just enamored with it. E-Vapes, thank you for the hookup, and I just, wow. Russian 91%. Definitely vape it. There is no hate in this one. Alright, so coming up right now, give me a second to set up, and I will be showing you the Fast Tech aluminum M16 Sentinol Clone. This is bang for your buck, and you're going to be amazed because for as cheap as this thing is, it performs wonderfully. So just a few minutes, guys. Alright. Alright, so M16 Sentinol Clone. This is a telescopic aluminum mechanical. Alright. You know, this is not any phenomenal build. There's not a whole lot of big time this, that, and everything going on with it. But for take it to work, use it, abuse it, don't worry if you break it setup, you cannot beat this thing. My only major complaint and flaw with this is the fact that the 510 connection is aluminum. The 510 pin itself is brass, and so is the bottom pin. It is brass as well. But it does have aluminum threads for where you thread in your 510. And you do not, I repeat, do not want to cross thread with this. You do not want to over torque your tanks on this, because the aluminum is not as able to handle abuse as most other 510 connections, guys. So if you over torque or you cross thread, you will be needing a new cap. Now, to combat that, I know that the Enzonic caps, and I believe it's the Sigeli 8, don't quote me on that, but I know one of the Sigeli caps and one of the Enzonic caps will fit this unit. And my buddy Zach over at the Vapor Lounge actually has one. I've been trying to talk to him to get a hold of it and actually be able to show that at some point in time. So definitely something to think about. Let me show you this thing broke down. Like I said, telescopic. It is basically a three-piece setup. As you can see there, you got two silvered aluminum top and bottom, and then you have a kind of a gold color. I've also saw on a couple of websites that have colored caps in black, red, blue, gold, orange, purple. So if you're a color hound and you want something that looks a little bit different, they do have those as well in the aluminum style. They're not very expensive. Now let me show you the way that this bottom is set up. As you can see, as I knock over my mod, as you can see, nice big brass on the bottom for your battery connection. It is adjustable. You're going to want to keep it fairly tight so that way it doesn't get sloppy. And one of the things that I have noticed is when you're screwing and unscrewing the lock ring, that will loosen up, so from time to time you will have to tighten it. But look at that big oversized O-ring that they put in there to stop your battery from making contact as long as you've got good adjustment on there. That's definitely one bonus that I really like about it. This will accommodate the 18350s, 18500s, and 18650s. So depending on what you want to run, you're good to go. And the other thing is this top cap, like the bottom, does break down, so that way you can see that nice big brass connector for the battery, and you've got that brass pin. Now my one complaint with that brass pin is it is one of those big fat head styles, so some atomizers might have a little bit of difficulty with it. But one thing that you will like, let me get an atomizer here and show you. When you do screw on your atomizer, it will actually make contact positively, as you can see there. Let's see if it'll focus on it. See the gap? That 510 pin does float just a little bit on a spring load, so that makes up for it a little bit. But if you have a severely recessed 510, you may have issues with it. So be forewarned. You may have to do a little bit of fidgeting with your 510 connections. And okay, I've got to clean off this atomizer since it got knocked over and spilled juice a little bit. Sorry guys. Alright, so now that you guys have had a good look and have seen what this thing is sporting under the hood, let me get all this juice from that sloppy setup covered. Now, I know a lot of the guys are complaining about the absolute clones. This one is not a 100% absolute clone because on the bottom portion it doesn't have the M16, but it does have the Grand Vapors logo and the Grand Vapors lettering. So be forewarned if you're a purist and you can't stand the ones that have the logos on them. This one does have that. Although it is very lightly etched in there, so if you wanted to polish that off, it wouldn't be very difficult to do. And that is one of my complaints with Fastech. It wasn't very well padded when I got it, so it's got a couple of blemishes from shipping, which would cause me to want to polish it out anyway. But yeah, if you do not want the logos, you're going to be sorry. But, like I said, for the price and for a beat it up, use it, abuse it, man, you cannot go wrong. So, let me get an atomizer that I know is primed and ready to go, and we will give this bad boy a vape. Here lately I've been going torch happy, guys, so you're going to get to see my new Igo W with the torching. Alright, so those brass contacts really do put out. You wouldn't expect it from a device that's available for as low as $12 on Fastech, guys. $12. I mean, really? So if this thing performs so as well as it does, I would really love to get my hands on an M16 Sentinel, the legit real deal that's made out of brass, because that thing's got to blow this thing down hand out over foot, just big time. But use it, abuse it, you can't go wrong. $12, I mean, really? And for those of you guys that want to try mechanicals and don't want to spend a small fortune, I mean, I know I showed you guys last time, and yes, the look on it has changed, but if you do not want to spend 25 bucks on a King and you want to get into mechanicals for half the price, you can't go wrong with this thing. So just to give you an idea. And yeah, I know there are a lot of expensive mechanicals out there. I mean, I'm sitting around drooling day in, day out over some of these $200 and $300 setups. But for being able to get in there, try it, see if you like it, and not have to worry about screwing it up, this M16 Clone is definitely a way to go. Alright. Now, there is one other thing that I got lucky and got my hands on while I was at E-Vapes, and it was number 84. One of the juices that I did not get a chance to review because I didn't have it on hand. Now, yeah, I had tasted it when I was at the premiere, and I gotta tell you, they had some sample bottle, or some samples that had been sitting around and actually got some extra steep time, because Courtney and David have made it very clear that they do pre-steep these before they're sold. But let me tell you, they do continue to steep when you get them, and they mellow, and the character changes in these flavors. Because this one is, when you first pick it up, it's going to be really punchy on the licorice tones, but the longer that it steeps, the more that it has a chance to mellow. That licorice is going to mellow out, and you're going to get a lot more sweet undertones with it, with a little licorice kick. And I'm not a big fan of licorice, so for me to want some of it so that way I have it around really tells you how good this flavor is. Because I will occasionally vape some absinthe, and it's usually through a dripper, so that way I don't have to fill up a tank. And the other thing is this is a flavor, obviously, with licorice in it, that you're going to want to run either a solid drip addy or a stainless or Pyrex setup, or maybe one of the aluminum VV Nova styles. So that way you're not worried about cracking your polycarbonate tank. But E-Vapes is outdoing themselves on these flavors. Very, very, very good flavors. Courtney, David, Dewey, all the rest at the E-Vape store, you guys loving it, absolutely loving it. So the clouds say enough, right guys? So give me just a minute. There's been a lot going on, and I've got a couple of things that I need to get out there for you. So I'll be right back with some information that needs to be put out. So give me just 1 second, guys. Alright guys, now here I am back to give you the information that I need to get out there. This doesn't just pertain to the local, but what I'm talking about right now is really specifically aimed at the local. For those of you that don't know, I am an Oklahoma local. I live in a small town called Chickasha outside of Oklahoma City by about 45 minutes. And we have a very tight-knit community here in the Oklahoma vape scene. We usually get together about once a month for a vape meet. And there are a couple of very big standout individuals within this community. David and Courtney from E-Vapes, Dylan Birch from BS Unlimited, you got Carlos Spicy Wiener, Colby Dixon, Sean Gore, I know James Woodard has been involved, and there is just so many more that have been involved with all these bans that are coming up in Oklahoma. I know Ada and OSU had a couple of bans that they were putting into effect or attempting to put into effect, and the folks that I'm mentioning have been going in and fighting for our rights to vape, so that way we are not losing the privilege, because Tahlequah just went and was talking about instituting a full-on citywide ban that would stop the sales and use of any kind of an Ecig inside the city limits. We're talking even in your own home by the wording. And I know that there's been some talk back and forth where the officials are backpedaling, but we do not know for sure how and where this is going. And what it comes down to, guys, is we need to mobilize. And the folks that I'm mentioning have got some websites that are available. The two helpful links for local is the vaporsclub.com and ovalok.org. I will post those as links with this video. And another one that is going to be very helpful is CASA. I believe it's CASAA. I will also try and include that in there. And CASA will put out information on bans, basically, if I'm not mistaken, nationwide as well as worldwide. And I know that there's been a lot of petitions that are also going out of change.org, if I'm not mistaken, which I've actually signed up for and have been signing in on these petitions, because I know Ada had a petition and I know Tahlequah also had a petition. But this Tahlequah situation is a really big one because it happened this week and we only had about 24 hours to mobilize, and David and Carlos and a few other people all mobilized and went up the same day, and we're putting out this information so that way we have our rights. And these guys have been so professional that they've put together studies, so that way all you have to do is print these studies off, put them in a binder, and just absolutely 100% look professional when you're presenting these to these city councils, so that way they see that there is more information than this old outdated studies that these guys are trying to present. And I know several of these studies are from when vaping was first started, when they had some of the more toxic chemicals that we've since learned are toxic and shouldn't be in the vapes. So just be forewarned, these things are coming down. And one of the things that the guys are pressing is, if these small towns start pushing these bans and actually getting them in, you know that the major cities are going to follow suit. And I know that Beverly Hills, California just instituted a ban similar to what Tahlequah is doing. So without people standing up and getting in there and getting these things known, we're going to be stuck back with no choice but big tobacco trying to kill us with a smile. So if you guys don't want to go back to giving your money to people that are trying to kill you, or flat out quit, mobilize and get out there. So the links that I'm going to be putting up there is just one way that you guys can help out and get involved. And I highly recommend, if you guys have a local vape club, that you get involved with them as well, because not only are you going to be able to know about what's going on that's going to affect your rights, you're going to be able to get in close and personal with people that are going to be able to teach you how to build, get a chance to look at mechs and mods and various different things before you buy them if you don't have a shop local to you. Or, you know, even some of the local shops are helping organize some of these clubs. Because I know here in Chickasha, we've already started a club that's local, as well as the city chapter that we go to in Oklahoma City that Mr. Dylan Birch organizes. So just something to think about, guys. Make sure that you're protecting those rights, and we need to be able to protect ourselves just for the simple fact that this is something that's far healthier and it's not as intrusive. And just because a few people do not know what we have and what we're doing and they want to demonize us, you know, it is what it is. Plain and simple. And the other thing too is, I know I hear a lot of these people saying that those of us that are cloud chasers are making a bad name. You know, I actually have not really ran into a bad situation, even being a cloud chaser. I've been told once in 2 years not to vape someplace because it was when I hit my head at work and had to go to the clinic, and apparently somehow or another they had a fire alarm set off because someone was vaping directly under the fire alarm, because for some reason or another these fire alarms are stupid and can't tell the difference between smoke and vapor. But you hear all these people where they're talking about people being rude to them and this and that because they're vaping. I have yet to have that happen, and I'm sure you can tell by looking at me, I'm definitely not someone that's subdued and so on and such. So plain and simple, guys, you don't have to be all uptight about it, because more often as not I get people coming up asking questions. How do you do that? Oh dude, that looks cool, can I see it? And it's amazing, in the last 6, 7, 8 months you see more and more people that are actually carrying mechs and various different setups, and instead of what is that, it's that moment of you pull your drip tip off and hand it to them and say, here, throw your drip tip in there and try it, man, this flavor's killer. What you running? So seriously, guys, we have to mobilize. And on that note, I think we'll go ahead and call it a wrap on this episode of Vape It and Hate It. And I am looking forward to the Oklahoma City meet coming up this Saturday night. You guys, if you aren't already on the list, get in there. Give me a split second and pull this up. My events. $7 p.m. at the Vibe nightclub on November 9th, the Oklahoma City Vape Meet. So any of you guys that happen to see this that are Oklahoma locals, so the November 9th, man, come on over. And you also have November 16th for any of you guys that are local to Chickasha and the surrounding areas. We're going to be having a vape meet November 16th at 5 p.m. at the Chickasha Holiday Inn Express. It's a lot smaller and a little bit more personal, and we got a lot of friendly vapors, and we'll be having giveaways. I know E-Vapes is either showing up or going to be sending some stuff along, so we got to thank Courtney and David and all the folks at E-Vapes for that. So there's going to be some giveaways, and I'm sure that the Chickasha Vapors Club is going to have more than just that going on, because the Vapor Lounge here in Chickasha always participates, and depending on what other shops happen to be out this way, I know LKA is supposed to be sending some flavors to our person in charge, and I'm waiting on the flavors from Lisa so that way I can review them for you guys. I've been in contact with the Truth in Vapor and said he'd get a hold of me after VaporCon, so I'm going to have to touch base with him and see what's going on his level. But we got things going, so you guys keep your eyes open, and more reviews to come, and lots of big things going on. So protect your rights to vape and enjoy those devices, whether they be cheap, whether they be egos, whatever it is, as long as it gets you off of analogs, so that way you're not having to worry about killing yourself. So vape happy, vape it or hate it.